doing my best to make you part of us.
Welcome back to Versus the Rest. Today we got a part of the video interview from Patrick Bet David, which meets he's going to meet Vivek Ramaswamy and the town hall. Actually, Vivek is a contender to be, I think, a Republican candidate. So he goes against Trump. And of course, like DeSantis and everything. Actually, I think he just went over DeSantis as far as popularity goes. I've listened to him once a couple of months ago. He's really good. He seems like a very, very smart guy. He's got a good resume and he's got good ideas. I'm going to watch a part of the video. The video has been like, they write what's in the part, and it's called about draining the swamp, which is, it's something I want to hear. Something about, that Trump talked a lot about draining the swamp. And then we figured out he just like brought new water to the swamp, so it was like maybe a bit less tainted. But like, it's one of the things that he did less about his policies. He had some good ideas, I think, and he put them to action. And even the bad ideas that he had, he put them to action too, which is still kind of remarkable for a politician to actually do what he's going to do. But he never did drain the swamp. Was he the swamp? I'm not too sure. So, okay, so let's start this video.
You don't know these guys. Who are you going to put in the office to say, well, I'm going to fire this guy, and I'm going to bring this guy, and I'm going to bring that guy? You don't have any experience with these guys in the swamp. So what do you say to those guys that don't trust who you're going to hire? They like you. Well, you can't fix everything. How do you address that?
So look, I think I'm the best shot.
Good question.
And nobody's perfect, but I'm also going to build on the foundation laid by Trump. I actually think, let's be really clear, I think that there's a lot he didn't do that we would have wanted him to do.
Oh,
but I think he
exactly
more than any president in the 21st century.
That's not what I'm asking, though.
So how are we going to actually bring the people in? Is the question.
You don't have contacts there. Okay.
Well, we're already starting actually.
How?
So I'm starting now. I mean, we already published our list of federal judges, for example. The judges we'd appoint to the Supreme Court, the judges that will appoint to the appellate courts. What did I look at? So my view is the U.S. president already has the legal authority to fire large numbers of employees in the federal government.
Okay.
This tripped up Trump. This is the difference between me and Trump, actually, is I think the people around him didn't do him a service by spouting the traditional establishment orthodoxies to him.
I agree.
What did they say? He wanted to fire people. They said, no, you can't do it because there's these civil service protections that stop you as the president from firing employees. Well, I suggest read the law. Turns out that civil service protections only apply to firing individual civil servants. They do not apply to mass layoffs. And mass layoffs are absolutely what I am bringing to the federal bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. And so you got to have, at once, a president who is an outsider, is a CEO, understands that if somebody works for you and you can't fire them, that means they don't work for you.
Pretty much.
It means you work for them.
Yeah.
Because you're responsible for what they do without any authority to change it. Me and Trump both have
Makes
that.
sense.
But it's a separate piece of this, which is an outsider who also has a deep understanding of the Constitution. And Hannibal asked the question, I'm grateful he read my 3 books. So if other people want to, you can check out the same thing. I understand the laws and the Constitution of this country. Many passages from my book have been quoted in appellate court cases in the last 3 years about actually big tech censorship being suppressed government action. And so that's the combination, Patrick, that will allow me to declare independence from the managerial swamp class. That's the advisors. And then on the practical side of this, we're already starting. We've got a project led by business leaders who I've known for a long time, already recruiting for positions, not just the cabinet level. Who's running the Office of Management and Budget? Who's running the Office of Personnel Management?
Do you have specific name?
We do. We have lists that we're working down and winnowing down. Absolutely. And far earlier than Trump started.
Fine. So who are these people that are helping you process issues? I understand as a founder CEO, we both run a company, and there's a reason why we have a board. The board's kind of helping you with the blind spots that you have. So Trump chose Christie as an advisor, right? Christie wasn't a VP, but Chris Christie is the reason why we got Chris Wray, and we're dealing with what the DOJ is doing to Trump, indictment, back to back to back. Trump hired that person, right? Who's in your ear to help you pick the right people in these different positions?
It's not Chris Christie. I'll tell you that.
So,
so it's a group of people, some of whom are ex-government, Many of whom, though, are really smart people who are not in government. And I have a strong bias towards that.
Towards smart people that are not in government. Me too.
A fresh perspective to actually understand who's going to be a bulldog in that role. Here's the mistake Trump made. Right, you take those two positions I just mentioned, the Office of Management and Budget, that's like the CFO of the executive branch, and the Office of Personnel Management, that's like the head of HR in the executive branch. You know, a lot of presidents make the mistake of putting in people in those roles who are mediators. They're almost like ambassadors for the administrative state back to the U.S. president. I don't want an ambassador for the administrative state. I don't want a mediator. I want a bulldog who is going in there with a fundamentally anti-government bias to see through my directive to fire large numbers of employees and shut down agencies that shouldn't exist. Now, here's the twist in that. We will get sued when we do this.
Yeah, definitely.
People who are fired are going to say, no, we're going to sue you, we're going to take you to court. This is good. Because the current Supreme Court, which I've studied, which I give Trump credit for, he gave us a great Supreme Court. The justices I filtered for also fit the same description. They agree with me on this 6-3. So what do we do then? Then we win. Now we're driving real long-term change because the next president who comes after me won't have his hands tied in the same way.
Good.
And so, yes, I think it is a unique combination of somebody who is an outsider, who has been an entrepreneur or an executive or somebody who has led major businesses, created thousands of jobs, but also somebody who has a constitutional depth to be able to act with conviction without what the managerial class tells them. And that's what gives me a sense of obligation to do this, Patrick.
Okay, so you know what's the great thing about business? When business people negotiate, we know what's at stake, right? You're going to get this much money, you're going to get this, I'm going to give up equity, you get to get an additional board seat. It's very black and white, we can do it. The government doesn't work that way. It's a lot of interesting people who look at you and they say, hey guys, this guy's just going to be here for 4 years. We'll replace him in no time. Everybody's just making him feel good and make him feel like he's special in the president. But he ain't going to do nothing. He ain't run this country. We'll run this country. Get him out of here in no time.
That's what they do.
That's how they view you.
You got it.
They don't view you as anybody.
Pretty sure.
Little puppet that comes along every 4 years.
So how do you, thinking from the mindset of optimism, we got this, we got a lot of smart people, and these smart people are going to come and figure this thing out, and they're good at reading people. You know how hard it is to read dark people who have different motives? There's a lot of interesting people in politics that are not loving this country the way you love this country. They want their card. The card that gets them into all these different additional benefits that you may take away from them. You think they're going to gladly let you take that away from them?
I don't. And so that's why, and this is where a reasonable person could disagree with me on this, but I have a firm conviction in this. That is why we're not coming with the chisel, we're coming with the chainsaw. Because there's no way we could ever manage to. That's a false hubris to think we could have that knowledge. We don't. 75% headcount reduction by the end of the first term. 50% of which has to be done by the first year. You don't move fast.
75%?
Yes, 1 out of 4 will stay by the end of the first term. 50% by the end of the first year. Chainsaw model. And that's what I said.
I don't know if it's a good idea that much.
There's good people in the Republican Party right now. I don't view them as competitors. I view them as colleagues, many of them, right? I'm going to need them in different roles.
Sure. So you should see it.
But they make the promise of reform. It is a false promise. They don't know it's a false promise. They don't think they're lying. But it's a false promise because reform is impossible. You cannot tame that beast. It is the Leviathan. You cannot tame that beast. You have to slay the beast. You have to shut it down. And so that's, again, the choice in this GOP
good
primary.
Points. It's true, but...
Do you want reform or do you want revolution? I stand on the side of revolution. I know that is scary to some people. It need not be, because you know what really is scary? The status quo.
It's keeping the status quo.
And we're not going to change the scary status quo.
That's true progressivism.
Unless we're willing to embrace the model of the phoenix. Will there be some cost to this? Is it going to be...
That's really like, he's a progressive, right? Really? That's much more than all of the Republican candidates.
It is better than the alternative, which is the hollowed out husk of a constitutional republic whose stagnation economically is destined to continue unless we take a quantum leap. And so, no, I do not believe in incremental reform. Okay? And if that's what the people of this country want, I think quietly they do.
I understand.
It's scary at first.
It is.
But it doesn't have to be scary. Here's the test to use. If George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and Thomas Jefferson are walking down the streets of Washington, D.C. and see what's going on today, would they be proud, or would
Depends on
they be
if they had the money.
appalled? I think
Probably
they would be aghast
Yeah, probably.
at what they see in Washington, D.C. today.
I'm sure these values
and the
were
experiment
stronger
they
back
set
then.
into motion, that's actually what got us this far. So if that got us here 250 years into this ball game, people say you were like ancient Rome. You're the fall of the Roman Empire. Well, you know what I say? On the bright side of that, Rome lasted for 2,000 years if you count the second half. So we're not even at the end of the first inning. And that's what it's going to take to drive actual change, is a revival, a reincarnation of those ideals of 1776. They are dead. It's not, I don't even call myself conservative sometimes, because in order to be a conservative, you have to conserve something.
Yes.
The thing that we are conserving
Yeah, he's
is
not a
itself
conservative.
now long gone. We
He's
have
a
to
right-wing
recreate
progressive.
that which actually set the whole thing into motion. So that's the way I look at it.
Fantastic. Okay, can we have, please, Johnny Lee Reynoso, if you can go to the mic, please. Johnny Lee, if you can go to the mic. So that leads me to this crazy question here. Okay, and I don't know if anyone's asked you this crazy question, so brace for impact. Ready? When asked on the Clay and Buck Sexton show if Trump were nominee, would you consider being on the ticket with him? Okay? Would you be on the ticket with him? You answered, I will be helpful to the country in whatever way I can, but I would not be number two or member of an administration.
Really?
I just don't think that's the right way for me to make the maximum positive impact on this country. For the question?
I'll have to disagree,
If you
I
win
think. Well, he
nomination,
knows.
would you
It's his
consider
life.
having him as your VP?
Yeah.
I would, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, I think that he and I probably share something in common.
That would be a pretty good ticket to have, like Vivek, which I think he's now second in place after Trump. To have him as VP, that would be cool. Definitely, I think he would make. Well, Trump is. I don't know. He's a progressive, but from the '90s, so that might be seen as a conservative now. But he's. I'd say he's much more. He's much more progressive than most Republicans. Definitely.
I mean, neither of us do well in a number two position.
Right.
I do expect
I
him to be an
understand.
advisor.
Okay.
But I want to learn from those experiences where the bodies are buried. I don't want to recreate.
I think
the
we'd be
same
a good
wheel. I want to
advisor, yeah,
understand,
definitely.
Get as much of a head start. And I do think he's a patriot who cares about this country every
Yeah.
bit as much as I
No,
do.
I think
And I
too.
believe he will rise to that occasion and be helpful to me as an advisor to understand the experiences of the stuff he's saying, things he would have done differently. Great, I want to know that. I don't want to have to learn those lessons myself. And so that's the way I think about it.
Has he picked a nickname for you yet?
I think he's calling me Young Vivek.
Young Vivek? I
Yeah.
don't think that's a bad
Young-
name, though.
I'll take it.
It's a
I don't
good
think
name.
that's bad.
It's
For some people,
it's respectable.
About a young president.
I
but
actually
Young
Yeah,
like
Vivek,
definitely.
I like
Nice,
that one.
yeah.
It's
Well, he's like
exciting
40
one. But by the
something, I
way,
guess, which is still
if
pretty
you were
young.
a betting man or a woman, what are the chances you think Trump would agree to being a VP for anybody?
Eesh. I'd be surprised.
We'll figure it out.
That would be
Jonathan
amazing.
Reynoso, tell us your question.
All right, so I'm sure that the rest of the interview is probably really interesting because Patrick, he always asks good questions. Well, not all the time. No, I've seen some questions that weren't great, but no, I really liked these questions, and they're pretty short, precise, and they get to the point. I love that type of thinking, and he's much more business minded than I am, but I think he's on the right point of truth, and he seems to be a good soul, and so does Vivek. Also, he seems to be a good guy. Of course, he's not a career politician. I think he's a doctor. He had business and other venues like that, but he's impressive. He's a bit extreme, but maybe sometimes that's what we need. I believe that our system is like so broken sometimes that like a revolution is kind of called for, but then again, an insider revolution is probably much safer because you know who's going to take power after that, and it's just like the same person, because that's a big danger of revolutions. It's the people that are going to take the power right after. Usually, though, you can't trust them more than the previous power structure. So, all right. So, yeah, if you want to watch more of the interview, I'll put the link into the information down below. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and thank you for being part of Versus the Rest. We are Versus the Rest. Have a good day.